So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Today, I'm going to be reviewing this thing, the Beast, the new updated version to one of my all-time favorite laptops, the Dell XPS 15. This is the 7590, and if you just look at it, you'll think it looks exactly the same as the last model. Don't be fooled by that, because there are a lot of major upgrades to this. We're talking Wi-Fi 6, 3 new display options, Full HD, OLED, Ultra HD Touch, new CPU, 9th generation CPU, i7, i9, new GPU, GTX 1650, and they've actually done something with the cooling. They've actively cooled a bit of the VRM and also cooled the chipset. Now, if you guys are new around here, come on, sub up, join the Wood Train, hit that bell, ding-a-ling-a-dong, and give me a like if you like this sort of video. Now, 15-inch laptops don't get any better than this. This is an ultra-portable 15-inch powerhouse. And yes, I know you gamers with your RTX dongs are laughing at that. But let me tell you something. Out of all the premium 15-inch laptops, gaming or non-gaming, I would take this over any of those gaming thin and lights. Any day. I mean, have a look at it. Look how beautiful it is. I tell you now, this is one of my favorite laptops to photograph. Even though it shares the design from pretty much 2015, it's still bang up to date because it has that beautiful Infinity Edge display with minimal bezels. The webcam's even up the top now, so if that's an issue, they've fixed that. CNC machined aluminium. Build quality is top drawer. It is pure class. Now, with the specs of this model, I actually have two. I have the OLED version and the 4K touch version. Remember, only the Ultra HD LCD panel is touch. The OLED is not touch, neither is the Full HD. But the two models I have here, I'll show the specs up there. One has an i7, one has an i9, and there's a difference in the RAM. Same GPU, of course. And it comes in at the starting weight of 4 pounds and 1.8 kilos. And with the Ultra HD touch, it's 4.5 pounds and 2 kilos. 11 to 17 millimeters. So you don't get much smaller and compact than this when it comes to 15-inch performance laptops. Now, they start here in Australia at about 2,200. US is supposed to be 979. I don't know what kind of model you get for that. And in the UK, I see them started around 1,800 pounds. And the models I have, the OLED, about 3.5 in Australian, 2,000 in the US, 1,800 pounds. And the i9 fully decked out is 5,200 in Australia. There's something wrong with the conversion there. 2,600 in the US and about 2,500 pounds. Now, if you compare that to the MacBook Pro, very good value. Can be up to $1,000 cheaper if you sort of get that same sort of spec, 1 terabyte, 32 gigs, sort of maxing it out there. So it is great value. And some people tell me, should I spend the extra on the X1 Extreme? And I'm like, that costs more? I would pay more for the XPS. And at the end of the video, I'll be answering a lot of questions that I have received and telling you why you would buy this over some other laptops. Of course, I could probably make a video saying why you buy them over this, but this is the XPS review, of course. And it's important to me that my reviews are for just normal people that don't understand what wattage is and undervolting and all that. That's what my other videos are for. I've got a playlist with all the performance testing. So check that out if you're more technically minded. For ports, we have a 4-lane Thunderbolt 3 with power delivery. And yes, you can charge through that, and it charges exactly the same speed as the power adapter, like just over 2 hours to charge it. Has 2 USB 3.1 Gen 1s, 1 HDMI 2.0, combination audio jack, and a full-size SD card reader. I cannot tell you how much of a joy it is to have an SD card reader again. Oh my God, so good. And of course, the power jack there. When it comes to the sound, I think they have actually improved the sound. It's still not in the class of the MacBook Pro. If you're listening to sort of like more compressed audio, at higher ends of the volume, you will get distortions, but it does have a nice clarity to it. It's good for watching movies and stuff, but overall I'll give it about a 7 out of 10 for sound. It's probably the weakest point of this laptop, and if 7 out of 10 is your weakest point, that's pretty good. When it comes to the keyboard, love the keyboard. Going from a MacBook Pro to this keyboard, it is so nice having a bit of travel there. It's backlit, it's not full size, it doesn't have a number pad, but I like it because it centers the keyboard. The only criticism I have is that the keys are a little small, but I'm a big man with big things, so might not be an issue for you. Trackpad, pretty much the best Windows trackpad. Only Microsoft probably make trackpads as good as the XPS line, not as good as the Mac. It's a solid 8 out of 10. I can actually video edit with this trackpad, so that is good. Glass, nice and smooth. Windows precision. gestures work well. It is really good. Now, when it comes to displays, you have 3 display options: Full HD, 4K OLED, and LCD 4K Touch. Now, if you want the killer battery life, like 15, 16 hours battery life, you get the Full HD, 500 nits brightness, that is. But let me tell you, the battery life on the 4K versions is really good. You're going to get all day battery life with either of them, like I'm talking 8 hours plus. So I see no reason to get the Full HD because you get such good battery life now. If you want touch, only the Ultra HD LCD has the touch. The OLED does not have touch, neither does the Full HD. Considering I have both panels, I'll put up the specs there from my measurements. The colorimeter actually thought that the Ultra HD touch was actually 700 nits. And that's because of the hot whites it has. Has really pure hot whites, maybe a bit of clip in there. But overall, it's 500 nits, 2.2 gamma, 100% Adobe RGB, and around 94% DCI-P3. With the OLED, and this is like a rounded off average of a lot of measurements, it's 100% DCI-P3, 93% Adobe RGB, and gamma 2.6. Now, of course, the gamma is different between DCI-P3 and 100% Adobe RGB. Which one should you choose? Good luck there, because I cannot even make a decision. Dell made the decision for me by only having the i9 with the LCD, so that's what I got. I'm happy with it, although I'll just equally be happy with the OLED as well. These screens are friggin' amazing. They are stunning. I have a video dedicated to these displays. Check that out. They are top class. Probably the best displays I've seen on laptops at the moment. Some notes are that the OLED really deep blacks. When I calibrated it, tried to make the blacks less black, if you know what I mean. And the LCD hot whites, and it actually tried to dull down those whites when I calibrated. So I would say good luck choosing between the two. If you don't know, 100% Adobe RGB is more for photographers and print. DCI-P3 is more for video editors. I think it's got more greens in it, and Adobe RGB's got more reds. The color gamut's so wide on both of them, you could use either photography or video use, so don't worry about that. Now, I always check for light bleed and stuff like that, but I don't like to publish my findings unless there's something really wrong with it or out of the ordinary. Just because it's a sample size of 1 and it means nothing. But because this OLED is new technology, I thought I'll publish my findings. And what I found is, of course, backlight bleed is not an issue with OLED. But it put a 33% grey. What I could see is sort of like a white sort of patch in the middle that sort of goes top to bottom. That's just panel uniformity. Could I see it in real life? No, never saw it in real life. Also, you can see here that it does have PWM flickering. So although OLED doesn't emit as much blue light as LCD, so usually it's better on the eyes, if you're sensitive to PWM flickering, maybe the OLED's not for you. And again, you cannot see this in real life. Like, you can't see it, but just, yeah, through this camera you can at a certain shutter speed. So all in all, fantastic displays, love them. So when it comes to battery life, first things first, it does support connected standby, but I had a mixed bag. Sometimes I'll close the lid, I'll come back hours later, and it would only use a few percent of the battery. Works how it should do. Once I closed it, opened it up, and it was just draining the battery. So the connected standby to sleep issues that other XPSs have had still present at the moment. Hopefully that's fixed with BIOS. The battery life on these is friggin' amazing. I could not believe it. Over 10-hour battery runs on both of them, streaming YouTube. 10 hours. It's about 40% brightness. When it comes to normal use, I just hand these over to my wifey. She uses Word, Excel, PowerPoint, web surfing, bit of videos. Just give it to her, then I'll work out from that usage what's going on. And I can say, even with the OLED, you're going to get over 8 hours battery life. And my wife does have the display pretty bright. So both of them will have all day battery life. So far, I'm not seeing a big difference between the two. Now, I have calibrated the battery on the OLED, so I'm getting bigger capacity compared to the LCD touch one, which I haven't calibrated yet, so it has less battery capacity. But overall, 10 hours video runs, no problems. You're going to get over 8 hours, both of them, normal use, productivity, amazing battery life on both. So I wouldn't be concerned either way. I mean, the LCD is supposed to have better battery life, but to be honest, in my testing, not much difference at all. When it comes to performance, go check out all my performance videos, undervolting, gaming, content creation. But to sum it up, this is a powerhouse and it performs like a powerhouse. You're able to do all your After Effects, content creation, Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere, whatever your poison is. This can do the job. You have the option of the i9 and the i7. Go check out my review, i9 versus i7. I think both of them are great. The i9 is exceptional. It really is. especially when you undervolt it and overclock it. If you can get to the i9, certainly get to it, but don't skimp on the screen. I would rather have an i7 and a 4K display rather than an i9 and a full HD. For gaming, you're going to be playing 60 frames per second, medium, high settings, more towards the high settings. It was getting well in excess of 60 frames per second, most of the games. So yeah, I would probably play 60 frames per second high. Myself, it's not a gaming laptop. If you want a gaming laptop, do not buy this. Still games like a champ. You know, temperatures, yeah, the CPU goes up to 100. The GPU can go up to 78 degrees. It's not that loud. Compared to gaming laptops, it's not that loud. It's pretty much comparable with the MacBook Pro in terms of loudness. You won't hear the fans, Netflix, streaming 4K video. The only time you'll hear the fans is when you push it. So noise isn't an issue. External heat really isn't an issue. It gets warm underneath and when you're charging on the left side of the keyboard, but nothing like gaming laptops is actually good in that regard. Now, there has been some issues where the GPU won't engage or it'll switch to the Intel HD GPU. That'll all be fixed in BIOS updates. I'm pretty confident about that. I'll talk more about that at the end. Dpc latency, I actually thought it was an issue. Out of the box, it wasn't. I tested Dpc latency, it was fine, but I thought it was OBS that was messing it up. Actually, Steve from Own and Disowned actually told me. It's the NVIDIA drivers, and it's true. I rolled back and it was fine. Dpc latency was fine. You know, when Apple say that we need to control the drivers, that's why we're not going to use NVIDIA because we want to give you a great experience. Well, it's probably true because NVIDIA are stuffing up the Dpc latency on pretty much every PC. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card. Steve from Own and Disowned doesn't even test Dpc latency anymore because NVIDIA drivers stuff it up. So out of the box, it was perfectly fine. When I updated the NVIDIA driver, yeah, the Dpc latency increased. So if you're coming from the Mac or whatever, that's Windows laptops with NVIDIA drivers. It can be hit and miss in terms of that. Also, that Wi-Fi 6 is friggin' amazing. Never had one issue with it. The range is really good. At the back, I was still getting good transfer speeds. And I tell you what, I nearly got up to 80 megabytes per second transfers with the Wi-Fi 6, okay? And that was over an AC client. I can imagine you might be able to get over 80 if you had an AX client, so a Wi-Fi 6 router. So Wi-Fi 6, it's no joke. You get better battery life with it because those streaming numbers, like I reckon that's the Wi-Fi 6 is giving those like 10-hour plus streaming runs. It's amazing. Lower latency. And usually with killer, I like hold my head and go, no, not a killer Wi-Fi, but this one's solid so far. So what cons does it have? Obviously the issue where it's not engaging the GPU, that needs to be fixed in BIOS. Dell, you need to fix that quickly. I'm confident they will. I don't have an issue with that. The DPC latency, they've got to work with NVIDIA to fix this sort of thing, right? Out of the box, it's fine, but I can't guarantee it will be fine, especially when you update the NVIDIA driver. Would have liked to see more done with the cooling, but that being said, there's nothing really here to hold me back. With that 130 watt power unit, it does a great job for that sort of thermal package. If you're coming from a Mac, I recommend you hold off at the moment. If you're not comfortable updating drivers and BIOSes and stuff like that, I would wait maybe 3 months and then buy it. Then all the drivers will be up to date. It will be rock solid. If you're a PC guy, you're probably used to that. One of the great things about being a PC user is they bring out the latest hardware as soon as it comes out. But that also has a downside too, because the drivers aren't 100% there. The BIOS isn't 100% there. So you have to wait a few months down the track before it comes super rock solid. That being said, it has Dell Updater. It does it all for you. You don't have to worry about it. So maybe it's really not an issue at all. But just know now, it's just had those previous issues that I've mentioned. Now, why would I buy this over a MacBook Pro or an X1 Extreme, which I think are the main competitors? I don't compare this to any other gaming laptop. Maybe the Aero 15 is the only one you could sort of compare here. But in terms of a MacBook Pro, it's much better value. You can upgrade it, more display options. There are less issues with this, even brand new straight out of the box. I mean, with the Mac, it's not a matter of if your keyboard fails, it's a matter of when. And Apple just treat it as a minor issue. It's just a minor problem, the keyboard. The keyboard's so important. There's a lot of other issues with T2 and stuff like that when it comes to the X1 Extreme. Believe it or not, I actually owned that for a few months. And yes, it raised the bar in terms of keyboard. It's super tough. It'll take the bash and crash of everyday use. It has two M.2s, it has two Thunderbolts. I actually prefer the port situation on the X1 Extreme, and that's another reason you'd get the XPS 2 over the MacBook Pro. More ports, better port selection with the SD card reader. But the reason I sold the X1 and I'd rather have the XPS 15 is Very conservative with the performance. It's a bit more thermally limited than the XPS 15. The calibration out of the factory is not even close to what it should be. Calibrated up, the display's fine, but yeah, way out of whack of what I expect on such an expensive laptop. It also doesn't have the battery life of the XPS 15. So that's my reasons I'll get the XPS 15. And this is still the one to beat. I think these ones are still the one to beat. So in conclusion, class-leading displays, class-leading battery life. I reckon one of the best-looking laptops on the market. Powerhouse, does everything you need from gaming to content creation. This thing is amazing, and I highly recommend it. So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Yes, you know what time it is. Tellio there, chaps and lasses. It's time to compare the newest XPS 15, the 7590, compared to the latest MacBook Pro 15. And actually, Apple have been playing with their website, so there's a new product coming, but what will it be? Will it be like a new ARM-based Mac, or will it be the 16-inch MacBook Pro, or will it be something that I couldn't really give a toss about? Anyway, let's compare these two champion laptops, because I'm going to tell you now, I've lost count of how many laptops I've reviewed, and these are without question my two favorite laptops. I bought both of them, so I put my money where my mouth is, and yeah, you got to go with what works for you, and these work for me. And think about it, I've reviewed all these thin and light gaming laptops, and it's awesome you can get these gaming laptops, these thin and light premium 15-inch gaming laptops, the RTX 2060, 2070, 2080s, and it's amazing. But I wouldn't compare them to these laptops, because these are like your premium thin sort of content creation sort of things. Yeah, it might be semantics, but those laptops are clearly gaming laptops. That's their number one use. And with that comes some compromises. They're awesome machines, but you know, either the trackpad's not good, or the battery life's not good, or they're loud and they're hot and they deafen you. And I just think the usability of these two laptops, and you could put the X1 Carbon in here as well, the Extreme X1 from Lenovo. They're same, but different. So I think these are the two best in this class, the XPS 15, the MacBook Pro. Let's see which one's right for you. When it comes to price, okay, I've got to say this without laughing, yeah, right. So I spec'd up two with the i9, the best i9 you can get, the best graphics, 32 gigs RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, $3,949, the MacBook Pro. This is US prices, $3,949. I thought they put down the SSD prices, and still friggin' expensive. Same sort of spec, XPS 15, $2,649. It should be no surprise to you that the Mac costs more, and either you want to pay that extra or you don't. It is what it is. It's your money. Do what you want with it. But what is that difference? That's like, what is it, $1,200, $1,300? Think of what you could do with that. You could actually buy an XPS 15 and a MacBook Pro 13-inch for that same sort of price as what the MacBook Pro 15 costs. Then you would have the best of both worlds. You could actually buy an awesome external display for the XPS 15. Probably have change left over. You could buy an eGPU for the XPS 15 with a nice RTX graphics card and still probably have change. You get the idea. I guess there's no question the XPS 15 is the better value, especially when you consider now that, you know, most of that MacBook Pro is old parts, like old Wi-Fi, old display from 2016, these parts are. Whereas the XPS 15, you're getting the new latest displays, the latest OLED, the latest Wi-Fi 6, you're getting the latest NVIDIA graphics. But in reality, that doesn't give you a better experience. So do whatever works for you. Now, when it comes to specs, they're both up to i9 9th generation CPUs. You can get the 6-core i7, the 8-core i9, powerhouse process in there. I guess the big difference here is one has a Vega 20 and one has a GTX 1650. Now, they're very comparable. They actually perform very similar. You'll be actually surprised that the actual MacBook Pro got a higher 5-stroke score than the XPS 15. So I think if you actually had that Vega 20 in the XPS 15, you'll be able to get even more performance out of it because it's a 130 watt package compared to an 87 watt package of the MacBook Pro. When it comes to build quality, both are absolutely superb and sexy, and that's why I like them, right? This is one of the main reasons I would buy these over other laptops like gaming laptops, even the X1 Extreme. I love the ThinkPad look, but it's nowhere near as sexy as these two laptops, and most of the gaming laptops aren't as sexy as these either. CNC machined, aluminium, beautiful build quality. The Mac looks awesome from the outside, that color, that nice uniform thinness. It's like a piece of art. And then when you open up the XPS 15, you got that Infinity Edge display, that beautiful carbon deck. That's just pure class. It really is. I really do wish they had a white deck with the XPS 15. That'll be awesome. Come on, they got it on the 13-inch XPS, but both of them top quality in that regard. When it comes to weight and thickness, the Mac is thinner and lighter, 15.5 millimeters, and what is it, 4 pounds or 1.8 kilos, whereas the XPS 15 is like 2 kilos and up to 4.5 pounds. It does actually start at a lower weight if you get the small battery in the XPS 15, but certainly the MacBook Pro is thinner and lighter. It actually looks thinner than it is because it does have a bulging underbelly and thin edges. And also the XPS sits up a bit higher, but the XPS 15 feels more compact because of the aspect ratio of the screen. So yeah, they feel similar to handle. When it comes to ports, the MacBook Pro has 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which is awesome. So you can charge it on either side. Lots of bandwidth there. And if you've changed to USB-C, you're going to like having all those ports, but there is a downside. You don't have SD card slot. You don't have normal USB, no HDMI. You're going to be using dongles or adapters, whereas the XPS 15's got all the ports you want, full-size SD card slot, USB 3.1 type A's, HDMI out, and of course Thunderbolt 3 as well. Of course, you have to put your power on the XPS 15 always on the left, which is one advantage with the Mac. You can charge it either side. When it comes to sound, there's only one winner here. The Mac has the best sound. I'll give it 11 out of 10. You won't even believe that they're actually on a laptop. The XPS 15 is one of the weaker points of the XPS 15. That being said, it's still a solid 7 out of 10. They're decent, but they're not good. They're just a bit above average. It's easy to pick a winner with the trackpad and keyboard as well. Mac has the best trackpad, 11 out of 10 again. XPS 15, about 8.5 out of 10. Sort of trackpad, one of the better Windows ones, but certainly not as good as the Mac. And I think most people are going to love the XPS 15 keyboard over the MacBook Pro, which, you know, it does have issues. It's probably going to break and it doesn't have much key travel. Although I will say I'm used to that Mac keyboard now. It doesn't bother me at all to use it. But yeah, the XPS 15 wins with the keyboard. The Mac wins with the trackpad. When it comes to displays, I think it was fairly close before, but I think now the XPS 15 just has like 3 display options and has the latest like OLED displays. The MacBook Pro is an awesome display, 16 by 10. I prefer that over 16 by 9. It's better for content creation, but that display is from 2016. And although it's still one of the best displays you can get on a laptop, the ones you're getting on the XPS now, the OLED and even the Ultra HD Touch, which I have, are friggin' amazing. That thing burns your eyeballs out, that Ultra HD. Like it was measuring like 700 and something nits. I think it was just the hot whites. I don't know. It's hard to measure those, but it's super bright. The crispness, especially with the OLED, when you look at text, like black text on a white background at 4K, 200% scaling, it is crispy AF. Like seriously, you can tell the difference between the MacBook Pro and the XPS's, the sharpness of the displays, the extra resolution, with the Mac's display being 2880 by 1800, whereas the XPS 15s have 4K displays, or well, you can get a full HD as well. I'd say it would have been even before, but I've got to give it to the XPS 15 here now. When it comes to battery life, again, that was fairly even before. I would have said the Mac, slightly better battery life than the XPS 15 on the older 4K models. Now, with the Wi-Fi 6, and I think that's helping out, that Wi-Fi 6 is no joke. You're like up to 80 megabytes per second over an AC client. If you had an AX client or a Wi-Fi 6 router, I reckon you'd even get more speed. And yeah, I think it's helping out with that streaming of video, like over 10 hours on that. And you're going to get 8 hours battery life even with those 4K displays. So it's quite amazing battery life on the XPS 15. It does have the bigger battery, 97 watt hour versus 83.6 watt hour. 87 watt power adapter on the MacBook Pro, whereas you get a 130 watt power adapter on the XPS 15. Obviously the battery size helps out. It's one of the reasons why the MacBook Pro is a little bit lighter. Both have great battery life. They really do. But I think with the Wi-Fi 6, I think the XPS 15, I think you're going to have a bit better battery life. Although it's very close. I've got to say it's very close. Performance, they're both powerhouses. They've both got great performance. I will say both of these laptops have great performance. And you think that 130 watt package on the Dell, 87 watt package on the MacBook Pro, the performance they get out of these laptops is quite amazing. It's not going to compare to the gaming laptops for gaming. Forget about it. They got RTX 2060s, 2070, 2080s, 8 gigabytes and everything. But in terms of content creation, I'd rather use these than those gaming laptops, even though they've got more power technically on paper. First of all, in the timeline, they don't feel any different. The export times aren't really that much faster, if at all. The MacBook Pro is actually the fastest in Premiere now. Any of the Adobe suite, the MacBook Pro is the fastest. And it's like the most thermally constrained and has the least power with the 87 watt package there, but it's the fastest. So for what these are designed for, I think they're perfectly balanced in terms of usability, all-round laptop, giving you enough power, but not deafening you, burning you, and having 4 hours battery life. Just a great all-round package with both of them. And I would say they're very similar in performance. Yes, the XPS 15's got more grunt. It does have more grunt. That i9, you can get up to 5 gigahertz, you can undervolt, you can overclock. You got 130 watts to play with as well, rather than the 87, and the Mac will draw from the battery as well. And they both game sort of similar. As I said, the Macs are faster in Adobe Suite now because they've optimized for the Mac. They need to do it for the PC. But you're going to be happy with the performance of both. But yeah, technically the XPS does have more power. When it comes to noise and heat, they both sound very similar. They're actually really good compared to gaming laptops. Both of them, the fans don't come on until late, until they get really hot. So for just regular lightweight tasks, you're not going to hear the fan. So you really have to push them to start hearing the fan. The Mac is really good for external heat. You don't really feel external heat that much. Gets a little warm underneath. The XPS 15 will be slightly hotter underneath maybe, and they're both good in that regard. Much better than gaming laptops for sure. And the fan noise, they're both loud once they get going. One's not better than the other, but I like it better than the X1, which has like a really high pitched, like Ultrabook fans. It sounds really buzzy, whereas these fans, they're just instead of did I just do that? Now, when it comes to upgradability, you can upgrade the Mac. Yes, you can. The software, but the hardware, you cannot upgrade. You get what you get, and that's it. The XPS 15, of course, you can upgrade the storage, the M.2 SSD. You can upgrade that. You can upgrade the Wi-Fi. Why you would want to upgrade the Wi-Fi? It's got the best Wi-Fi, but you can upgrade it if you want. You also can upgrade the RAM. Mac, you can only go up to 32 gigs. You can get 64 gigs RAM in the XPS 15. And if they ever do bring out 64 gig DIMMs, you'll be able to put 128 gig in there. But with the Mac, if you're super rich, you can get a 4 terabyte SSD. But I don't think it'll be too long until you have 4 terabyte NVMe sticks anyway. They probably already do, actually. So the overall conclusion is I love them both. They're both my favorite. To me, they're like coffee and tea. Which one's coffee? The coffee is the XPS 15. It's a bit more powerful and gruntier. And the Mac, it's a bit more fine and delicate, more elegant, sort of tea drinker. And I like coffee and I like tea. And I don't want to have to choose in between them. Sometimes I like coffee, sometimes I like tea. But I'm not going to sit on the fence. I always said you could argue the Mac was the best laptop. But it's pretty hard to argue that now when you think that all the new parts you get with the XPS 15, the Wi-Fi 6, the latest OLED displays, the latest NVIDIA, and it's much better value. You can upgrade it and it's got a bit more grunt. So there you have it. Which one do you think is the winner? Let me know down there in the comments. It's going to be very interesting next year or so because there's going to be a 16-inch MacBook Pro. Will it replace the 15-inch? We don't even know if that's going to be a thing. It might be all Pro. It might be super expensive and maybe they keep the 15-inch. And you got to remember, next year there's going to be an XPS 17. So stay tuned to this channel, subscribe. We already know Dell's roadmap. And by the way, the next XPS 15 is early next year, if you wanted to know. Still has the same graphics card. On the roadmap, it said it had the same graphics graphics card, the next XPS 15. Will it be a new design? I don't know. Might just drop in a new Intel CPU. There's no 10 nanometer 45 watt parts coming, not even next year. So we're going to be stuck on 14 nan for a while. So I don't think it gets better than these two. I love them. So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on. Let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Tellyo there, champs. This is why you buy the XPS 15. It is a super powerful beast. So if you champs are new around here, come on, sub up, join the Word Train. I've got a lot more videos on this XPS 15 coming very soon. Review will be out tomorrow. I've compared the screen, done gaming reviews, content creation reviews. I've done everything on this XPS 15. No one's tested it more than me. So if someone else comes out with a review and they reckon they've done the testing, no chance. Because every waking hour has basically been testing this machine, and it's not even possible that someone done more testing. This is the i7 versus i9 comparison, and I went along with the narrative, and I even said it myself, but I was wrong. And the narrative was only get the i9 if you got the work case for it. So if you got a multi-threaded load that needs extra 2 cores, no. That is not how it is, especially with this XPS 15 that you can overclock it, undervolt it. The performance is out of this world. I'll show you what's happening in Cinebench in a minute in terms of performance per watt. But the main thing here is not only is it great in multi-threaded workloads where you would expect it to be, having the extra 2 cores, it is absolutely smashing it when it comes to single core. I'm talking single core speeds of 5 gigahertz. It can hit 5 gigahertz. Yes, you have to undervolt it, you overclock it, because this is overclockable. I thought, no way, what's the point of an overclockable CPU in this XPS 15? It's not going to get the most out of it. Believe me, it does. I mean, it wouldn't be the absolute most. Obviously, if you had a gaming laptop, you'd probably be able to get more out of it. But when you're hitting 5 gigahertz, and it makes an absolute massive difference. You'll see in the Photoshop benchmark later where it's basically single core, and it's really sensitive to frequency. When it's able to hit 5 gigahertz, it's actually of a magnitude faster than the i7. And that's basically mostly a single core test in that Photoshop. It's not a matter of if you got the worst case scenario, it's going to be faster in every scenario, especially in this XPS 15 where you can undervolt it and overclock it. Now what you see is we're doing a Cinebench run. You have stock i7, you have undervolted. They're undervolted by 100 millivolts. The actual i7 can go up to 150 millivolts and the i9 can go up to 130, but I just left it at 100. Most people will be able to get up to minus 100. So I left it at that. And what is astounding about this test is no matter what happens, after the boost clocks are over, this is going to hit 56 watts. Whether you undervolt it, overclock it, doesn't matter. Even with the i9 overclockable, it'll come down to 56 watts after it's finished boosting. That's how Dell have baked it in. Now, I could not believe what I was seeing here because watt for watt, clock for clock, the i9 is exactly the same as the i7. And now think about this. Exactly the same wattage per clock, but it's got an extra 2 cores. That's the main thing. So for example, stock, it'll settle down at around 3 gigahertz at 56 watts. Both of them 3 gigahertz. The difference is the i9's doing it with 8 cores. So at 56 watts, 3 gigahertz, 8 cores, i7, 3 gigahertz, 6 cores. You would expect the i9 to be lower frequency. It is that much better in performance per watt. Not only that, it's nearly 10 degrees cooler stock. Now let's get on to it undervolted. 56 watts undervolted equals with both of them 3.4 gigahertz. So again, at the same wattage, 56 watts, we're getting 3.4 gigahertz on the i7 and the i9. And again, the i9 has 8 cores. That is blowing me away because I did not expect 8 cores to be able to perform the same frequency as the 6 cores. I expected it to be lower frequency. And it's even cooler again with 8 cores going the same speed as 6 cores, same undervolt. It's not 10 degrees cooler now, but it's like 3 to 5 degrees cooler. There could be some variations in, the thermal paste or whatever in temperature, but the performance per watt stands. That i9 performance per watt is much better than the i7. To be able to pull the same frequency with an extra 2 cores and even be cooler is just mind-blowing to me. And the fact that you can overclock it to the i9 and get those 5 gigahertz clock speeds with low CPU sort of single threaded usage. And I'm not talking about when it's under 50 degrees, which is thermal velocity boost. I'm talking it'll hit 5 gigahertz when it's already hot. Amazing performance there with the i9 versus i7. Okay, so what does that mean in the real world? So this is a Photoshop benchmark, and what you need to know about this Photoshop benchmark, it's mostly single threaded. There are some multi-core bits to it, but it's mostly single threaded. There are some GPU effects in there too. Now, this XPS 15 i9 is just like smashing records in Windows laptops. If you don't know already, the Adobe suite is optimized for Macs now, so it's not surprising the Mac i9 with 8 cores is faster. But usually the Windows laptops are nowhere near it. But this one is virtually the same as the i9 Mac when we're talking the i9 of the XPS 15. Now look at the difference in the score between the two Macs, okay? There's a little difference, right? Because that should only be the difference. Because you have one Mac with 6 cores, the other Mac with 8 cores, and still there's only a little bit of difference because this is mostly single threaded, this test. But go have a look at the differences between the XPS 15 i9 and i7. There is a massive difference in the score, and that all comes down to that i9. They're both undervolted in this test, but the i9 is overclocked too, so we were hitting up to 5 gigahertz, and that's all down to those clocks, all right? So it's not just multi-threaded, being able to hit up to 5 gigahertz, and it was maintaining 4.7 to 4.9 mostly through that test. Unbelievable. So you can clearly see the advantage is not just in multi-threaded situations. So, okay, so when it comes to my famous render test here that tested like every single laptop, well, there's actually no difference because the Adobe updates have basically made software encoding and GPU encoding, GPU bound rather than CPU. It used to be more of a CPU test. And as you'll see here, the XPS 15, very competitive with much more powerful laptops when it comes to software encoding. That's basically hitting the GPU now, not so much the CPU, but then flip it around and go to hardware encoding. It's like right up there on top of the list there. So excellent performance from both of them. Doesn't really make difference 4 6 cores because we're not really hitting the CPU that much compared to what it used to be with the software encoding. So here we have Lightroom 74 raw NFs to JPEG. So this is exporting raw photos to JPEGs in Lightroom. And this is basically a CPU test. So it really pegs the CPU cores, all cores at once, like 100%. And as you'll see there, XPS i9 on top. These are the undervolted scores on both the XPS 15s here. The Mac, that is the 218 version, 6 core. And as I've told you, the Mac is optimized for Adobe these days. That is still very competitive, that Mac, and that is 6 cores. But still, it doesn't compare to the 8 cores of the XPS 15 and stock, even 137 with the XPS 15 i9, 8 cores. Now you go down to the i7, it's around about 2 minutes undervolted. And that's obviously with 6 cores. So there's nearly like 30 seconds difference between the both of them. Now you might think 30 seconds isn't that much, but this is only like a 2-minute render. Can you imagine if you exported 750 photos? It'll be 10 times 30 seconds. Yeah, big gains there with the extra 2 cores and the extra performance per watt because it can maintain the same clocks, same wattage as the i7, get massive gains there. Okay, here is Puget Systems Premiere Pro benchmark. I suggest you go get their After Effects benchmark, their Photoshop benchmark, and their Premiere Pro benchmark because their Premiere Pro benchmark is epic. It plays back all the footage, all the different frame rates, ProRes, Red, Canon, every single bit of footage. It is so comprehensive. And as you can see here, the performance of the extra 2 cores plus the extra single threaded speed you can get equals a much better performance in Premiere Pro when, I doubt with H.264 stuff you're going to notice, but if you're going to ProRes or Red Raw footage or you're introducing a lot of CPU effects, the single core speed and the extra 2 cores, that's a massive difference between them. Now here is just basically CPU test. That benchmark was the overall system. This is just CPU, so it has 30 frames per second footage and 60 frames per second footage. Now the difference between the 30 frames per second footage on the top scales absolutely correctly. You got around, a score of 59, let's say 60, and you got a score of 40. Round that off and say 40. That would scale exactly right. 60 versus 40, that's what an extra 2 cores would give you. But then go down to the bottom where it gets into more heavy duty stuff like 60 frames per second. This is where the high clock speeds and the extra 2 cores are going to come in because the gap widens now. It's nearly double the sort of performance there. when it comes to live playback. And playback is the most important. Export, I really don't care about that much, but it's the playback, right? 31 versus 17 when it comes to 60 frames per second. So that extra 2 cores, high clock speed, making the difference there again. Okay, now let's get into some After Effects. And in After Effects, there are tests for like Cinema 4D in there. So this tests the overall system, GPU and CPU. They've both got the same GPU, but this is the score of the i7. Then we'll flip over to the i9, and then I'll just amalgamate the scores together. I just wanted to show you this graph so you could go through all the sections. So you can see the Cinema 4D, the tracking, the warp stabilizer, the 3D tracking, so you could see individually each one. One thing to note I actually haven't told you is the i7 does have 16 gigs versus 32 gigs in the i9. Now that will make a difference, but I've already tested 16 versus 32, but that comes nowhere near accounting for the actual real difference between these two, because most of the time it was single figure difference, 32 gigs compared to 16. So anyway, would I recommend the i9 over the i7? Well, last year it was just like, if you just wanted the fastest, it's a little bit faster. It is going to be faster, but it's not a big deal between the i7 and the i9. This year it's completely different, especially in this XPS 15, being able to undervolt it, being able to overclock it, the performance per watt maintaining the same sort of clocks as the i7, but with an extra 2 cores and even lower temperature. Yeah, it is well worth it. My recommendation to you is, if you're a content creator, definitely try and get to the i9. I'll get the i9 before upgrading the RAM. I'll get the i9 before upgrading the SSD, because you can always upgrade that later. If you can get to the i9, get to it. In gaming, it's not going to make much difference. I have tested Firestrike. There was literally no difference. I tested PUBG, and yeah, it performed a little bit better. I will do a specific gaming video comparing the i9 and the i7 once the new BIOS comes out, and because I can't get matching BIOSes at the moment. So when the next BIOS update comes out, I'll be able to do that. There's not really going to be that much difference. The extra 2 cores doesn't make any difference. Yes, the performance per watt will, because you'll be able to maintain a higher clock at a lower wattage. But yeah, that i9 is worth it. Every single penny in this. And I was 100% wrong. It's not just for multi-threaded. It's just for everything all round. It is just a much better chip, and especially when you can undervolt it and overclock it. Amazing. Yeah, it really is amazing. And thank you guys. This was a lot of testing. I mean, this is hours of testing, but so this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the come on. Let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Righto, tell you there, champs. Now, hope you're all having a great day. I am. I'm loving these XPS 15 content. Yeah, it's a little bit rough and ready, eh? I know you guys. You want the content today. I could make it more polished and I could give you the content tomorrow, but you guys want it today. Give me a thumbs up if you agree there. All right, champs, if you're new around here, come on, sub up, join the Woo Train, and I will have a lot more content. I've got the i9 in the house now, so stay tuned for that. By the way, this friggin' i9, it's no joke. Oh my God, it was pushing. I'm not even joking here. Have a look at the score on Cinebench. Yeah, you see it. 3,640. 3,600. What? Yes. 8 cores. I overclocked it to 4.7. I think 4.7 was the sweet spot. I got it to 4.8 as well. Undervolted by 120 millivolts. And yeah, it did hit like nearly 100 watts. It did hit the 4.7. It actually hit 4.8 when I'd done one of the runs. Not for long. I mean, it can only do that for a couple of seconds. It was sustaining 70 watts quite a long time during the run. And that was like 3.7. And it settled down at about 3.4 gigahertz. That's 8 cores at 3.4. So that is amazing. When you think that this is 8 cores going at 3.4, whereas the i7 was doing like 3.1 with 6 cores. That's no joke. And you can see it in the scores. The i9 is worth it. It is, like, especially if you undervolt, it is worth it. Like, I thought in this chassis, what are they doing overclocking a CPU in this sort of chassis? But 3.4, 8 cores, now you see why. So have a look at the displays now. Tell me which one you like. I'm going to get into showing the whites, the blacks, and all that sort of stuff later. On the left is the MacBook Pro, obviously, the 16:10 display. You can see it's taller. And then you have 2 XPS 15s. You have the i9 in the middle with the Ultra HD, and that's the touch display. And that one is the LED display. And on the right, you have the OLED display. The The Full HD display they have this year is better. It's 500 nits. So, you know, if you want the killer battery life, you go for the Full HD. It's not going to be as good as these 4K ones, but it's going to have the battery life. It's up to you. What do you want? It's your choice. But good luck picking a winner out of these three here. Also, I would like to really thank you guys for watching my videos and supporting the channel, and just give me a thumbs up and sharing and whatever you do, and subscribing. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And some of you music guys are really nice. I mean, all I covered was DPC latency. I said it would be good for music production because the fans keep down. And I got thank yous from people. Thanks for covering music. Thanks for covering music. I didn't really even cover that much, but how nice is that people do that? That is so refreshing compared to most of the people on YouTube. Oh, test this, test that. Oh, you should have done this, and oh, do that. And it's like, they don't even thank you. God, some people think the world revolves around them, don't they? So anyway, I'd like to thank you guys. There's a lot of thank yous I'm getting. So yeah, I really appreciate that. So which display do I want? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It's like really hard. At the end of the day, the one in the middle, I think I like that one. I don't know why. I prefer LED over OLED. It's got a touch. I don't even care about the touch. It's not that. It is the brightest, whatever. That's fine. I guess one of the main factors is it's going to have better battery life than the OLED. And by the way, yeah, I've done some battery runs, and like 3 battery runs over 10 hours, streaming video, full HD. And yeah, that's using the internet, of course. So Wi-Fi 6 in this case, over 10 hours. So that's not real world, but still over 10 hours on the OLED. It was about 40% brightness. So hey, come on, it wasn't that bright, but the pixels weren't black, so that's not too bad. Now, of course, the one in the middle, the LED, is going to be brighter. Now, of course, the one in the middle is going to get better battery life. So yeah, if you want the battery life, go for the one in the middle. So hard to choose. The Mac, yeah, all right. When you look at the Mac compared to these, I've never had a complaint about the Mac display. I love the 16:10. It's got nice natural colors. I've never found it wanting at all. But when you look at it against these displays, the first thing you'll think is not as sharp. Contrast isn't there. It just doesn't have that vibrance pop. But on the plus side, it has more natural looking colors. So if you want those more natural looking colors with the XPS 15, I think you're going to have to go for the one in the middle, because you'll be able to calibrate that. Like if you use Premiere Color, and for some reason Premiere Color is only on the LCD Dell. They don't have Premiere Color on the OLED one, so I don't know what that means. And if you don't know, that's like a color management app. And if you get one of those Pantone X1s or whatever they are, those color calibrators, they're the best ones to get, not the Spider. Yeah, you can just plug it into Premiere Color and just put it to whatever space you want. If you don't want it that saturated, change it over to another color mode. You'll be able to do that. You'll be able to tone down the XPS 15 if you want to make it more natural. But with the MacBook Pro, you won't be able to pump up the volume to get that punch, that contrast, or the vibrancy if you want that. Now, for me, with the XPS, I don't even need to calibrate it. I just know I just have to take into account that extra bit of saturation. I just know that. Also, that extra little bit of contrast. So that's why I prefer not to calibrate the XPS 15, because I can calibrate it so it will show like a more linear path to the blacks instead of clipping them. Then on most screens, you won't be able to see it. So I don't know, which one do you reckon looks better? So hard. They're all great. I don't think there's a clear winner here. I think they all have their own sort of pros and cons. I'll probably go with the middle one. That's the one I'll go with out of the XPSs. The OLED is gorgeous though. When you see stuff on the OLED, like, yeah, it looks amazing. So hard. I don't know. One thing's for sure, the LCD XPS 15 is definitely the brightest by far. It was like 490 nits on the OLED. It was like on the MacBook Pros, it was around 450. It was actually nearly 460. And the other one's like 570. So that's the LCD XPS 15. I noticed when I looked at the whites, the LCD XPS 15 has the most pure white. The actual white on the MacBook Pro looked a little bit yellow. I turned off True Tone and I turned off auto brightness. For some reason, it just looks a little bit yellow. I mean, I'm a male. Males can't friggin' see colors that well, but that's the truth. But I know that LCD is just pure bright white on the XPS 15. On the OLED, it looks a little bit grayish blue compared to the, say, yellowish blue on the MacBook Pro. I guess maybe the XPS 15 in the middle, the reason it looks so bright and pure white is because it's such a bright display too. So if I back it off a bit, it doesn't look so white, but it still looks more white out of all these three. So if we have a look at this dark wallpaper now, so this is where the OLED will shine, that contrast, that deep blacks. Yeah, you can see it, right? And the vibrance. Look at the XPS 15s, both of them, so vibrant. In actual fact, the LCD XPS 15 does have sort of OLED traits to it as well. That's the IGZO panel. That's how they are. Yeah, they're hard to measure the brightness on those things, and sometimes they are hard to calibrate. So make sure you get one of those X1, those X-Rite ones. Calibrate it and do it in Premiere Color. If you try it on one of these spider things, yeah, you're not going to get good results. But the Mac, yeah, okay, so it doesn't look as sharp, doesn't look as contrasty, the colors look muted, but it looks more natural. So I guess it's pick your poison. What do you reckon's better? I mean, I think they've all got pros and cons. Now have a look here with this color wallpaper, and as you'll see, like the colors on the OLED look deeper, contrastier. Like it's not as bright as the LCD of the XPS 15, but everything looks deeper because it's got more contrast. It just looks a little bit more richer. But that being said, the LCD XPS 15, I mean, if you look at that compared to the Mac, you know, that looks deeper and richer and darker and everything else that you want and vibrant. And yeah, and then the MacBook Pro, those more natural colors. You know, the thing about the MacBook Pro, as I said, I've never found wanting. It's one of the best displays I've ever used in a laptop. Yeah, when you look, compare side to side, yeah, don't do that. Certainly, I expect the next MacBook Pro, because you've got to remember, this is from 2016. These are brand new displays that have just come out this year on the XPS 15. So, you know, it's not a real fair comparison in that regard, but I guarantee the 16-inch MacBook Pro, one, is going to be high resolution, so it's going to have that sharpness. And I'll bet you it's more vibrant and contrasty. I bet it will be. You know what time it is. Tally ho there, champs. XPS 15 7590 gaming review time. So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Alright, so if you're not already, come on, sub up, join the wood train, everything you want to know about this XPS 15 compared to MacBook Pro, everything you want to know. Let me know a question down there in the comments if you got it. It's fair to say, last day and a half I've been smashing this thing, and I know its limits, So let's find out if it can game. Just a quick, compared to last year, or last model 9570, not a big difference. A single figure improvement would be in percentage if you want to know. You know, I classed this XPS 15 and the last one as 60 FPS, medium to high settings, and I still class this one here the same. So nothing's really changed in that regard. Small incremental improvement. That's more to do with thermal package rather than, you know, the GPU not being that much faster, because the GPU is, if at maximum, up to 20% sort of faster than the 1050 Ti. But of course, this is an XPS 15, thin and light, you know, it's 17 millimeters, very thin. And if you want a gaming laptop, do not come here. This is not a gaming laptop. In saying that, I'm very happy with the gaming performance. Like, it does what I need. It plays my games 60 FPS, medium to high. That's all I ask for. So if you're gamer first, go get a gaming laptop. Now, if you don't know what the specs of this are, this model here is i7-9750H, 16GB RAM, dual channel, GTX 1650. with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now I do have an i9 coming in. Steve from Owner Disowned asked, would it be worth getting the i9? Well, we'll soon see. Go check out his channel, especially if you want to see what the 1650 does. He has a few 1650 laptops that he's reviewed. But I will do another gaming review once the i9 comes in the house. I mean, the dead giveaway that something's a gaming laptop or not is, does it have a high refresh rate monitor? No, these don't. But I can tell you now, without a doubt, the games have never looked better than they do on this OLED display. Anything that is properly color managed, because OLED can look weird when it's not in a color managed environment, like Windows is even weird sometimes with color management. You look at something that is color managed properly. This OLED, the gaming experience for just visuals is just awesome. Like nothing I've looked at on a display in a laptop for gaming has looked better in terms of just pop, contrast. It just looks so nice. Now, of course, it's 60 Hertz. So anyway, let's find out how this games. It games well. I'm happy with it. It's not 100% dialed in. They have to update the BIOS. And they have to, mess around with power management. I love Dell for letting the horses run free, but trying to pump 56 watts into this while it's gaming, yeah. There are many full-on gaming laptops that will buckle with 56 watts or 4 gigahertz on the CPU. Yeah, they need a BIOS where they control that wattage on the CPU and also not make it such a hard limit of 75 degrees on the GPU. So thanks to Bob of All Trades for actually helping me out with the GPU temperature. This GPU is capable 85 degrees stock. This is limited to 75 degrees and it will hit that. CPU will go up to 100 degrees. The actual keyboard area, yeah, it gets warm, but nothing too bad. When it comes to gaming laptops, and this isn't a gaming laptop, but when it comes to performance laptops with graphics card, there's two versions, right? There's loud and friggin' loud. And this is in the loud category, right? So when it's under full load, it's actually quite pleasant compared to some gaming laptops, believe me. And it gets a little bit warm underneath, nothing too bad. So let's have a look at Cinebench just so we can work out what the thermals are doing here. And as you'll see that it is hard capped at 56 watts. Now that 56 watts gets carried over even if you undervolt. So on the left you have stock, on the right you have undervolted. Now even if I undervolted and raised the package limit up to 100 watts, it'll still settle down at 56 watts. It's baked in. Maybe with the i9 it won't be, but we'll soon see. Now you're not going to be gaming at 56 watts, so for gaming doesn't really matter. But if you're rendering or something like this, you're still going to hit that 56 watt limit. And as you'll see on the left, 56 watts equals 3.1. And as you'll see on the right, undervolted by minus 150 millivolts, 56 watts equals around 3.4, maybe 3.5. So it doesn't reduce the temperature at all. Once the fans kick in, it's like 80 degrees when you peg that CPU, or in the 80s anyway, at that 56 watt limit. So are the thermals changed? I think it's just better performance per watt of the CPUs and GPUs. And that's what's given me the feeling that it is a bit faster or a bit better thermally. When really it probably isn't. I will open it up later in future reviews because I'll show you how to upgrade this. So make sure you subscribe. You want to see stuff on this XPS 15, do sub up. But the one good thing is when you game, like the last XPS 15, the clock would go down to 1.8 gigahertz sometimes. It doesn't do that anymore. It stays like over 3 gigahertz, which is very surprising to me. And it's sometimes 4 gigahertz, which is just absolutely bonkers with this sort of chassis, this sort of thermal envelope of 130 watts. Something's got to give, right? So that's where the micro stutters were coming in. And by the way, there are a lot of gaming laptops that do the same thing, but they will fix that with BIOS. As Bob of All Trades said, they will reduce the performance in the BIOS. And yeah, it needs it. You're not going to be doing 56 watts with this gaming. You're just not going to. I mean, I've reviewed Razer Blade full-on gaming laptops where they capped it at 35 watts. How is this pushing 56 watts? It's just... What are you doing, Dell? You're going too hard, Dell. So anyway, they will fix that with BIOS. Now I'll show you how to fix it manually yourself. Alright, so out of the box with the latest BIOS, it's a bit too ambitious. I was getting like slowdowns every now and then. So Dell have to really dial this in. They need a new firmware, a new BIOS that, controls the CPU a bit more and maybe even controls the GPU. Just because the power limit was reached, the temperature limit was reached, and just... That's because, I love Dell for it, but they let the horses run free. But it's a little bit ambitious with this, the thermal package of this and the power package, it's not going to handle those sort of, speeds of 4 gigahertz on the CPU and, the GPU at 1600 and stuff like that. Even gaming laptops will struggle. So until they update the BIOS, To stop slowdowns, if you do get them, this may be silicon dependent. I recommend you undervolt and you control the wattage. So what you do is download and install Intel XTU, restart, and once you do that, come in here. So you come in here and you go to all controls, you go to core, click on that, and we want to undervolt it. Now this can do -150. It'll be silicon dependent. Start at 100. So we'll go to 150. I know this is good for 150, and this wattage here, we want to keep that down. 56 watts is just crazy for an XPS 15 while you're gaming. I mean, that's just out of control. Let's dial it down to about 25 watts and then go up from there. So you had no problems, no stutters at 25 watts. Increase it slowly. Now we'll get more into undervolt when I get the i9 in. If you want to know the effects of undervolting, it just basically increases the clock speed. Make sure you stay till the end of the video because you will clearly see what undervolting does. So here you have it. Here are the FPS on the screen. And I will tell you something. I think the Vega 20 is faster than the 1650. Not only does it get a higher 5-strike score, if I look at the MacBook Pros, benchmarks compared to this XPS 15, very competitive and sometimes beat it. And you can imagine if you put that Vega 20 in a 130 watt package, it would be even faster. So I think the Vega 20 is faster than the 1650. So what I would say to manufacturers, PC manufacturers, come on. I know Nvidia's got you over a barrel, but come on, give us some Vega 20 love because that Vega 20 flies. And in the PC, whew, but at the end of the day, they're both pretty comparable. So the 1650 is good. It's a good upgrade over the 1050 Ti. If you're in a gaming laptop, you will get more of a benefit compared to the 1050 Ti. In this thermal package, the difference won't be so much. So they're the frames. So overall, my conclusion, yeah, it does everything I want. This is a powerhouse video editing, content creation machine that games, okay? It gives me my medium, high 60 FPS. All right, there are some exceptions to that. But some games, it was pushing well in excess of 60 frames per second. So I'm happy with it. They got to dial it in a bit with the BIOS, fix that. Showed you how to do it yourself. So we get rid of some of those micro stutters and make it a bit more linear, the stutter. When it hits that 75 degrees on the CPU, not just fall off a cliff. We just want a bit, smoother transition, which they will do with their BIOS. I'm 100% confident of that. If you're a gamer first, don't buy this. But if you want a powerhouse content creation, beautiful, great daily driver, 15-inch laptop that games as well, this is the one, right? So make sure you sub up. I've got a lot more videos on this XPS 15. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Tally ho. All right, so we're playing PUBG. Stock settings, no undervolt. What are we getting? 99 degrees, all right. 50 watts. Why is it all 50 watts? This isn't a gaming laptop. Dell, what are you doing? What are you doing, son? You shouldn't be going that hard. There's no way you should be going that hard. It's going to end in tears, I'm telling you. Yeah, all right, it's dropped a little bit now to 3.7, but still 80 frames per second. These are medium settings. PUBG, baby, 1080p, of course, and still maintaining those clocks. What the? That's crazy. And now we dip down to 3 gigahertz. Yep, I'd expect that. That's it. Okay, so maintaining 4 gigahertz for a while. Now we're dropping down to 3 gigahertz. This is what I'm talking about. All right. I was getting a bit carried away with those frames there. That was like too crazy. That was like gaming laptop sort of frames, and not only frames, gaming laptop sort of frequency there with the CPU, 4 gigahertz. Like, that's crazy. Not even a lot of gaming laptops, I'm telling you now. They don't even, they do maintain 3.5 probably, but this is very similar to a gaming laptop. Like, yeah, quite interesting, isn't it? It actually can game, and yeah, I think it might be just a combination of, better performance per watt with ninth generation CPUs and the new 1650 graphics. So maybe they haven't done anything with the cooling. I have to have a look. But certainly to maintain these sort of clocks, and this isn't even undervolted, is quite amazing. That's what I would expect a gaming laptop to do, like a full-on gaming laptop, and one of those thin and lights like, the Aero or, something like that. Even like the Razer, yeah, it wouldn't be doing 45 watts, the Razer, I can tell you now. So
this is performing very well. I'm so surprised. It's really good for gaming, like, you know, and the games, they never look better than it does on this OLED. All right, you want a high refresh rate monitor if you're going to be playing first person shooters. Yeah, all right, we know that. But, you know, there are a lot of console gamers that game at 60 hertz and they love it. And I'm telling you, on this OLED, you know, anything that's color managed looks so stunning on this OLED. And OLEDs have fast response too. You got to remember that they've got fast response. This doesn't have the refresh rate, but it does. I don't know what the response rate is, but OLED does have a fast response. So the games haven't looked better, and the game performance on this is quite frankly, considering that this is stock and not even undervolted. Let's undervolt it, eh? 3.2, 32 watts. All right, so it was about 3.2. Let's undervolt it. Alright, so you can see here, no funny buggers. Now the Elgato does go a bit crazy when you alt tab out. So yeah, you can see there's no funny buggers, but there you can see power limit throttling, thermal limit throttling. That's fine, right? It's not a gaming laptop. And even the gaming laptops do that, so don't worry about that. Let's just go to a profile that I have, minus 100, or it's actually more than 100, it's minus 150 millivolts. We'll apply that and we'll see what it was. It was about 3.2. Forget about the frames because it's just going to depend where you are in the game, but we'll push in, you know, under 40 watts, and it was like, now we're pushing, I'm not going to stay alive for much longer. Now we're pushing, what are we pushing? 32 watts. The temperature has dropped slightly, but now we're 3.9. Okay, that's what you got to watch, the clock. Now it's gone up to 4 gigahertz. 4 gigahertz now, and it was at 3.2 when it wasn't undervolted. Now it's dropping down because, yeah, all right, I've been slamming this thing right now, so it's like super hot now. And this is as bad as it's going to get, and this is undervolted to get up to 4 gigahertz, and that's the thing, it's not going to reach 4 gigahertz. It was sitting at about 3.2 before, right? It's going to back off every now and then because it's not a gaming laptop. The power limit and obviously the thermal limit, it's in this thin package. Yeah, that's what it is. But amazing performance. I think, you know, it's pretty good. Like, don't compare it to a gaming laptop, but I think in a thin and light package, to be able to push 4 gigahertz, yeah, all right, it's undervolted. And it will drop down as you just said, and then it went down to 2 gigahertz. But I remember last time the XPS 15, it would drop to the 9570. That would drop down to 1.8, sometimes 2 gigahertz, and there's no way it was maintaining 4 gigahertz. So yeah, some improvements here. Whether it's just the silicon or there actually is some thermal improvement, there are improvements. So yeah, happy days.
So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the, come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof, it's Windows Pro time. Righto, tally-o there, champs. Now let's see if this Dell XPS 157590 is any good for content creation. I think probably most of my videos on this channel have probably been done with the XPS 15. Last 6 months when I sold the XPS 15 in January because I thought a new one was coming out at CES, has been the Mac. But overwhelmingly, the XPS 15 has been my most used for my channel. So when the i9 XPS 15 comes in, I will be testing After Effects, DaVinci and 3D apps like, 3D Studio Max, Maya, stuff like that. And also, if you wanted to upgrade this laptop, check out the links in the description to compatible RAM and SSDs, my recommended ones. I will have a video on that coming tomorrow, how to upgrade it. Very simple to do. So let's crack on and see how good this is for content creation. So if you don't know, the model I have here has an i7-9750H processor, 16 gigs RAM, and of course, the GTX 1650 graphics card. So a pretty good combo and a nice thin package for video editing. It's going to be powerful, of course. First things first, this OLED display. I had concerns about it. You don't have to be concerned. For content creation, it's going to be really good. I measured like brightness of nearly 500 nits, like 490 nits. Had a delta E value of a little over 1, pretty much gamma 2.2, and for color accuracy it was pretty much bang on. Like, I could not tell the difference between the calibrated and uncalibrated display. So it actually was a bit brighter than the MacBook Pro display. Now it is saturated. Anything that is not color managed is going to look weird because it's OLED. It'll look garish and like whatever. But if it's color managed, and most creative apps are, and you just take in the fact that, yeah, it is a bit saturated. The colors look right. I have a calibrated 4K display and the colors look exactly the same as that. So yeah, no worries about the color there. Just one thing about the 400, 500, 600 nits that all different manufacturers are claiming, they're all using the same display. I've heard that from a source that actually this is like the variations in the panel. It can be anywhere from 400 to 600 nits. So Dell are claiming the lowest, some are claiming the highest, but they're all the same panel. So don't be fooled by that. All right, first thing is first. What you're watching here is the Dpc latency sort of monitor. And when those green bars go red, it's no good for music production. Now, the last XPS 15 had Dpc latency problems. So that's good. Everything's green. So if you want to be a music producer with this XPS 15, it's going to be very good because it's actually quiet too. So unless you really push the CPUs, you're not going to really hear the fans. I watch Netflix, the fans aren't audible. Streaming YouTube, fans aren't audible. They're not really audible until you really push it. Like you can notice it when you're video editing, yeah, okay. But with music production, if you're just recording audio, you're not going to really hear the fans. Of course, if you've got plugins and stuff like that and you're, making music, you're going to hear the fan. But good news is for recording, you won't hear the fans. It's very good for music production in this. And as you'll see later in the Lightroom test, it maintains high clocks with all cores, into the 3.5s when we're doing the exports in Lightroom. So you can imagine if you've got plugins that are multi-core, it's going to be good. If you want the single threaded speed, it's going to be good because you get nice, over 4 gigahertz and stuff with single threaded stuff. And the thing is, i9, i7, the i9 will be the best for music production, especially if you have multi-core plugins and stuff like that. You'll also get the insane high clock speeds too with thermal velocity boost. But yeah, good for music productions. Well done for fixing that issue, Dell. All right, so there's going to be a lot of people that are coming out claiming they're doing a review. This is how you do a review. You test every single thing to do with the laptop. So here we've got Cinebench, and as you can see, yeah, whatever. Par for the course here. Yeah, it's faster than the Razer because the Razer's like a cap is around 45 watts and the Aero is actually 60 something. So it's a bit more than the XPS 15. But yeah, you can see the undervolted scores and the stock scores. That's how these parts perform pretty much. It's standard there. You get a little bit of boost there with the undervolt. Also, if we look at the SSD, we have a Toshiba SSD. It's perfectly fine. It's super fast. You have Hynix RAM on this machine as well. All right, so now we have some Photoshop benchmarks. Now you can download this Puget System Photoshop benchmark. It does real world sort of benchmarks. It is scripted. So there you go. It is pretty much nearly as fast as the Aero when it comes to this Photoshop. With the MacBook Pros, both of them, yeah, it does lose out there. That is not to be expected because literally now, and it is quite annoying because Adobe done a lot of updates for the Mac. With the Mac, they are the fastest in the Adobe suite now. They just are. They just updated everything. Even like you can make a Mac with the eGPU be faster than a desktop. I'm talking i9 9900K with RTX 2080 Ti. Yeah, the Mac will render faster. I'm not even joking there. That's all to do with optimization. But then if you have a look here, we look at the XPS 15 score, you'll see it's faster than the 8th generation Aero, pretty much the same as the 9th generation Aero. And yes, it is falling short of those Macs for those reasons I just mentioned. So it's going to be a Photoshop beast. I mean, if it's competing with the Aero, and Aero's got a higher wattage cap on the CPU, also has a like RTX 2070, that's pretty good. So Photoshop, the XPS 15 has you covered. Okay, so now we have red raw footage, 8K. So this is straight out of the camera to H.264, like YouTube preset. And as you can see there, the XPS 15 is the second or third fastest behind the Macs. As I said before, Adobe Suite loves the Macs these days. It's not that it's more powerful, it's just optimized for it. And yeah, it's beating out the Gigabyte Aero and the Razer Blade. So why is this? Well, I can tell you exactly why. With the Razer Blade, as I said, it was capped to like 45 watts, so that CPU could not go over 45, where the XPS 15 can do 56. That's the reason why there. But with the Aero, I noticed that it would not hit the GPU when it rendered. Like, for some reason, it has something to do with drivers. And if you don't already know, if you go to NVIDIA's website, you can download game-ready drivers or you can download the studio drivers. Now, the studio drivers are supposed to be better for Premiere and stuff like that. I don't know how to install them. Please, someone let me know, because there are some more gains to be had if we have those studio drivers. So yeah, 8K to H.264, the fastest Windows one. So in a minute, I'll talk about the difference between software rendering and hardware rendering. But what you can see here is on the right-hand side is the software rendering. Now that gives you the best results, or best quality results. And then in the brackets, you can see hardware. HE is hardware encoding, okay? So what you can see here is this is my famous list, and every single laptop's done. There are loads more laptops tested that are on the list that I can't even show, but these are the top ones. And as you'll see, the XPS 15, the last model, is down the bottom. Now it's not the bottom of the list, that's the bottom of this list. Like, there's a load more laptops slower than that below that. That has an i9, just remember that. So that has an i9, and you can see there 9 minutes and 6 seconds versus 8 minutes and 55. So like a modest increase there, or sorry, 8 minutes and 54. A modest increase there, but have a look when you look at hardware encoding. But what you see is the Macs are on top. Yeah, and have a look at the eGPU in the Mac. Yeah, that beats a desktop. I'm not even joking. They are the fastest in Premiere now. That's just annoying. Don't shoot the messenger. That's how it is. I wish they would do an update for the Windows laptops. Studio drivers hopefully do that. Now let's have a look where it is on the list. Once you do hardware encoding, most people will output using hardware encoding. Not many people are going to use software encoding. That's just the fastest way to do it. And with YouTube, you're not going to notice the difference. But look at it now. So all of a sudden goes boom above the Alienware, above the Aorus with a GTX 1080. And really, it's above both Gigabyte Aeros too. And I explained how they weren't hitting the GPU that much with the drivers there. And the Razer Blade beats it, but the Razer Blade does hit the GPU. I know that for a fact. And that's why that's so fast. That has a really fast one. And then you consider that if you compare it to the MacBook Pro hardware encoding, yes, you can see it's only like 10 seconds slower if you hardware encode. So that's good. So it's pretty much even with the MacBook Pro if you hardware encode. If you're not hardware encoding, you use software encoded in OpenCL on the right-hand side. With the Macs, they just friggin' fly. I don't know what's going on there, but with hardware encoding, you have to use Metal on the Macs. But as I said, it's only 10 seconds slower than the Macs, and they're optimized for the Macs at the moment. So good thing there with the hardware encoding. Okay, let's look at the more important thing here. Actually how it performs in the timeline with Premiere Pro. This is a 4K project, and I've got the streams here. The project will come in a sec. Yeah, I could play back 5 4K streams. 6, it started to drop frames. I only put 4 there, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to have to knock one off. It actually done 5, so this is the best in terms of Windows laptops that I've used so far. Most of them only do 4, so I don't know why that is. Maybe the drivers have been updated. I have no idea, but yes, it can play 5 streams back there. Now let's get into the full project here, and this is H.264 100 megabit file there. So it's from Panasonic GH4 because it is an older project, but still H.264 100 megabits. And we have color correction. So you have a LUT applied, you have color correction on the top. As you can see here, if I turn on the color correction on and off, also have high resolution photos. Okay, so you'll see it just plays through this like butter, no problems. You can see it plays through the high resolution photos, doesn't drop any frames. And have a look there. You have a look for that green little dot there. That'll show you when it's dropping frames or not. No, you will see with this, 4K, it just laughs at 4K now. So yeah, it doesn't drop any frames, plays back smoothly. It plays back through all the footage with the color correction. So let's get on to some high resolution footage. All right, so we have 6K footage here. So this is just 6K red raw footage, and let's have a look at the scrubbing. Seems fine scrubbing. That seems pretty smooth. So this is at full. Can't say it's bad. It's not too choppy. It seems to be doing it pretty well. This is at half, sorry. Let's go to full. I thought it was scrubbing a bit too well. All right, so at full, 6K, still seems okay. Let's go here. It's hard to tell. She doesn't move that much. This is the only part where she sort of moves a little bit, I guess. The smile. Yeah, it seems okay at full. So let's see if I can play it back.
All right, so 6K, no. We are not going to play back 6K footage at full. Okay, nope, it's not going to happen at full. Let's try it half. It is working. You can probably hear the fan there. So what does it take to play back 6K footage at half? Can we do that? Still dropping frames at half. Okay, let's see how many frames it actually does drop. Sometimes it's just a matter of the CPU ramping up. 197 frames, that's quite a bit. So yeah, it's not playing back 6K footage at half. Let's see again, just to make sure. Okay, no, that's not happening. Let's go to quarter. Now, 6K footage at quarter still looks good on like these small little monitors here. So the thing is, can we edit it natively without transcoding it? That's the whole goal of this. And 6K footage, it looks fine in those preview windows. So yeah, it can play it back at quarter, no problems there. So you will be able to edit this natively. You have to put it down to quarter. 8K obviously will be a bridge too far, but let's see what we have to do to do 8K. Given that the 6K footage, I had to put it down to quarter, I'd say 8K would be the same. Okay, skip the frame there. That doesn't seem too bad. It seems pretty smooth, right? So this is at quarter. Obviously, it's not going to play it at full. This is red raw footage. Just want to see how many frames that dropped. I'll just hover over that. 2 frames. So that could just be a matter of it ramping up. Sometimes the CPU will always lag. That's just, even if you have a desktop, it just does that for some reason. Premiere probably bug. Let's see, green, quarter, go, yes, quarter, 8K. So that's it, green all the way, baby. I like to see it like that. So it plays back 8K, pretty much the same as it does 6K. So you could probably edit 8K natively. Now, obviously, you want the best performance, convert it to ProRes, Cineform, whatever your intermediary codec is, or DXNR or whatever. But it can play it at quarter, which is very surprising. I didn't think it would be playing back 8K footage at quarter. So right now we're building the previews, 75 nefs in Lightroom, and as you can see, it pegs the CPU. Might start using this instead of Cinebench, because you can see if you had 8 cores at 100%, this would be a lot faster. So this is where extra cores will make a difference, having the i9. So it is, what are we, 1 minute 35 into the render, into the preview builds. It really does peg that CPU, and we're still going 3.6, so that's very good, 100% usage. And it used to take about 2 minutes 10. At 150 minutes now, 1 minute 50 seconds. Let's have a look. So see if it does 210, and 210 is pretty much what every laptop done. Gonna stop it. Stop. 2 minutes and 03. So last time was 2 minutes and 10. That was the last XPS 15. Usually I don't even include this time, because usually every laptop's pretty much the same. They're either 2 to 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And yeah, it beats out the last one that was 2 minutes and 10 seconds. All right, so let's zoom into some of these. Zoom in, boom. This next one, zoom in, boom. It's pretty instant. Oh, accidentally right click then. Zoom in, boom, instant. Accidentally right clicked again. So yeah, the trackpad, you got to make sure you click on the left side. Yeah, that's one of the things about this trackpad compared to the Mac one. Again, I clicked on it. I've got to get used to that. Yep. Okay, so it's just instant, you know, zooming in, zooming out of those previews. All right, so let's do some adjustments here. Let's increase that contrast there. Oh, look at that. That's instant. So you can see I'm sliding. It's pretty much doing it instantly. The one that's really hard on the system is that clarity. Let's see. Reduce the clarity. Pump it up. Look at that. That's really hard on the system, that clarity. So yeah, that's pretty much instant. Let's go in and do some adjustments. So we want to paint some things black. It looks a bit pale in there. So grab that adjustment brush and We'll put that exposure to 0. We'll put the black really down so that I want to paint these black areas black. All right, so get the brush out. Just, yep. So I'm going to paint these areas black. It's not painting them black, it's just making black blacker, I guess. There you go. That's instant. That's really good. So, you know, performance, no problems in Lightroom. Look at it, it's instant. Let's even try the clarity brush now. I'll take off those adjustments there. Actually, I'll leave those adjustments there and I'll just add another brush. So add a new brush, and then this one won't be for blacks. This one will be for the clarity, which is really hard on the system there. Where is it? The clarity. We'll increase the clarity right up. So look how sharp it gets straight away. Whoa, look at that. Instant too. Look how sharp it is. That brush, instant. And it's already got one brush there. So yeah, multiple brushes, no problems, making it nice and super sharp. Lightroom, this has got you covered. I'll do an export time. Export times are actually similar to the preview times. All right, I'm exporting 75 nefs, and that used to still take around that 2-minute mark. Already 30 seconds and nearly done a quarter of it. As you can see here, this is pegging the CPU as well. We're using 100% of the CPU. So yeah, I think this is a good test. It's real world. These are raw files. They're nefs. They're, you know, not JPEG. So this is pretty heavy duty, and I'm exporting them to JPEG. So it's 100% CPU usage. That's very interesting. No GPU usage. And so it's 100% CPU test. And we're maintaining some high clocks here. 3.6, 3.7, 6 cores. So be interesting to see if it hits that like 2-minute mark for the exports. It's similar to the previews, right? All right, so we're exporting these photos. We're at 1 minute and 45 seconds at the moment. Can we hit that sort of 2-minute mark? It looks like it's going to do it. It's going to be a little bit quicker than 2 minutes. Yeah, boom, stop. All right, stop, come on. That's right, boom, 1:58. There you go, 1 minute 58 seconds. Yeah, can range from, you know, these 9th generation or 8th generation CPUs can range from 2 minutes to 2 minutes and 10, just like the previews. And yeah, it's on the faster side, so it's pretty much one of the fastest at sub 2 minutes. So it is really good for doing this sort of thing. Now have a look at the task manager on the left, and you'll see that this is hardware encoding. So it's using the Intel HD graphics, and it's using the GPU as well. Not so much of the CPU. We'll use the CPU, but not so much. It's more using the GPU of both the Intel HD and the NVIDIA. So that's why the CPU clock is so high, because it's not really getting used. It's only using like 50% of the CPU now. So this is all down to Intel HD and the GPU. All right, so in here, I'm going to change this from hardware encoding. I'm going to change it to software encoding. Now this will take longer. It'll be a better render though, better quality render. And we'll export that, and then we'll have a look at the graph here, the task manager, and you watch the difference. It will still use GPU, but look at the Intel HD. It barely uses it. In fact, it doesn't use it at all. One thing you'll know about this render test too, which I test all my laptops on, it is RAM sensitive. So it's using 10 gigs of RAM. If you got 32 gigs RAM, it'll use 24 gigs. If you've got a 128 gigabyte system, this render will use 32 gigs. So you might think, oh, 32 gigs, I'm not bottlenecking. Yeah, you are. If you had 128 gigs, this render would be using in the system up to 32 gigs. So there is a difference there. You can hear the fans kicking in there. It is, you know, pushing the system there. But look, see, it's using the GPU. The CPU frequency is down, but look, it's using 90% of the CPU. It's just backed off a bit now. So we'll sort of alternate between GPU and CPU. And there, look at the CPU usage, boom. It's gone up to 100%, 84%. It was never doing that on the hardware encoding. So I do have a lot more content when it comes to this, and make sure you subscribe if you want to see more content. I have the i9 coming in, and yeah, this is how you do the review, right? You test every single thing. A lot of people won't even do this sort of testing, and I make sure I test it all before I, you know, finish my review, and I'll be comparing it to the MacBook Pro.
So to wrap it up, this thing is great for content creation and great display. I want to see the Ultra HD with the i9 that's coming. I really want to see that display. It does everything you want for content creation. I will cover, some more content creation with 3D and After Effects in the future. So yeah, good machine for content creation. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Tally ho. So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof, it's Windows Pro time. All right, fellas, this is just going to be a super simple operation. Believe me, it's really easy if you haven't done it before. I guess if you're experienced doing it, you're not even watching this video. So I'm going to just pretend you don't know what you're doing. Now, first things first, make sure you back up everything. In the description is a link to the tools I'll be using. And you will need a T5 Torx screwdriver and you will need just a Phillips head screwdriver. I'll also leave a link to my recommended SSDs and RAM to upgrade this machine. So if you're just upgrading the RAM, just ignore the installing Windows bit, which I'm going to do first, and just actually skip forward how to upgrade it. Of course, I'm going to be very nonchalant. It's very easy to do, but do it at your own risk. That being said, it's super simple. Can't imagine you'll have any problems. Let's do it. Now let's install Windows. And Windows is super simple. Get a USB stick, 8 gigabyte USB stick. We go to our friend Google, we type in Windows 10 ISO, go to the Windows 10 ISO page, then you see there, download installation tool, download that, follow the prompts, make sure your USB's in there, make sure you've taken everything off that USB because you're going to wipe that USB, follow the prompts, boom, simple. You've got a bootable USB. Now let's put it into the drive. Now, as I told you before, make sure you have the Wi-Fi driver, very important. You have the Wi-Fi driver. After you've made this Windows 10 ISO, download the Wi-Fi driver for the XPS 15 so you can download the Windows updates. Now, to install Windows, all you do is boot from that USB by turning on the Dell, spamming the F12 button, and it will come up with boot options. You want to point to your USB drive, whatever it's called. Mine's called Toshiba. I boot from that, follow the prompts to install Windows. What we want to do here is custom install, and then when it comes here and it shows your drive, it should be one blank drive unless you've made a clone, which you don't have to install Windows obviously, and you just select that one blank drive and you click on the button and it will install it for you on that drive. Boom, that's it. Simple as that. Now once you've installed Windows and gone through all the steps to installing it and you're on the desktop, install the Wi-Fi driver, or let Windows update all the drivers. If there's missing drivers, just go to Dell's website and download them. That's it. Simple as that. But make sure you have the Wi-Fi driver, of course. All right, so now all you do here is you unscrew the screws on the bottom of the machine. On the outside of the bottom plate here, you have all the T5 screws, and underneath that surface flap there, you have 2 Phillips screws. So just undo them, simple as that, and then pull off the bottom. That's how simple it is. Just make sure you don't forget the ones underneath the flap, the Phillips head. Yeah, I've done that. So now we're inside the beast. Have a look at it. Oh, look at the power. All right, there is the RAM. That's what you're going to upgrade in a sec. There's the CPU, GPU, there's a fan. But the first thing we do is unconnect the battery. So just clip that clip out. I never do it, but you should do it because it says so in the manual to do it. So make sure you do it. Make sure you put it back in. Yes, make sure you put it back in once you're done. Now to upgrade the RAM. It is so simple. See those levers on the side of the RAM? Push one out, push the other one out, and boom, it just pops out like that. Simple as that. Then you get the new RAM and you put it back in by the magic of TV. Boom, there's the new RAM. Well, it's actually the old RAM, but same thing applies with your new RAM. Obviously, you want to install in pairs, so take both of them out and then you put the new RAM in. The first thing you have to do is make sure that slot lines up. Okay, so that little slot, that slot in the RAM there, that's got to go the same side as the slot in the actual motherboard there. So yeah, make sure you get that right, because if you put it the other way around, you can do some damage. So yeah, it's as simple as just putting it in there. Make sure it goes right in the slot. You'll see the gold pins sort of disappear. It might show a little bit, but that's about it. That's how it is. You just push it in, boom, that's it. Do it for both of your sticks. You're done. Simple as that. Now the SSD. Oh my God, it's like a one screw job. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do because I'm going to actually film and do it with one hand. Super easy. Just pull out that screw. It's just going to pop up. Boom. That's it. Pop in your new one. Bob's your uncle. So you just upgrade the RAM and SSD. And how long did it take? Like 2 seconds. Super simple. Now, of course, you've got to install Windows if you've installed a new one, if you haven't cloned this drive. Now, you might be thinking, where's the thermal pad for the actual SSD? Well, like every single XPS, it's stuck to actually the base of the unit. So have a look there. There's the thermal pad. Put that on the SSD when you put it back in, because you just get the new SSD, slide it back in, and then screw it in. And that's it. That's super simple, isn't it? It was really easy. Now, before you put the base back on, make sure you plug in that battery if you've unconnected it. And if you've installed a new SSD, we have to install Windows. Now, if your RAM does not detect, what you need to do is just start the XPS 15, keep spamming the F2 button, get into the BIOS, reset to BIOS defaults. That's all you have to do, and then the RAM will detect.
Okay, that's it. You're done. So if you go into your system settings here and you look at your system, you should have the amount of RAM you're supposed to have. In this case, 32 gigs. And if you have a look at your computer, whatever SSD you put in there, if you put a 1 terabyte, it'll tell you. Boom. That easy. Done. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you in the next one, guys. Tally ho.
So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof, it's Windows Pro time.
Yes, come on. You know what time it is. It's Dell XPS 15 time. Yes, I'm very excited to finally get this in the house. Hey, if you don't know anything about this laptop, make sure you sub up, because I'm going to cover it, compare it to MacBook Pro, show you how to upgrade it. By the way, in the links in the description is my recommended RAM and SSD to upgrade this. If you want to upgrade the RAM and SSD, it is compatible with this. I'm going to do gaming review, content creation review. I'm going to compare the i7 to the i9 because I do have an i9 coming. This one here's the OLED i7, so let's have a look. Now, initially comes in what I would term is the brown paper bag of boxes sort of thing here. And yeah, that's cool. They're not using so much ink. I like that. But it does have a nice box inside. So you take all that out of the box. And this is what you're left with. Nice and simple. What do we got here? This is 130 watt power supply. Now, it is the barrel connector. Okay, so you will not be charging through USB-C or Thunderbolt. You actually can charge, but it's a slow charging. Yeah, they haven't actually moved to USB-C or Thunderbolt for charging. They do have a 130 watt power supply that is USB-C from the XPS 2-in-1. So we might have to wait until early next year when they redesign it, maybe, that it moves to all USB-C. That's not a big deal. This is the box that comes in, this nice, sleek, black box. And the initial thing is, when you first see this, you think, wow, 15-inch ain't going to fit in this. And it does. Oh, my baby's back. My baby is back. Oh, yeah. Now, I've actually been using the MacBook Pro, and I've been suffering now. I haven't been suffering. It's actually been not too bad. Well, one of the models I had was nearly on perfect. But in an ideal world, I'll be using the XPS 15 because I love these things. And I actually sold my last XPS 15 before CES because I thought there was going to be a new model of this coming out. So I mistimed it. I've been XPS-less for a long time. Now here's the literature. Yeah, it's an XPS 15. I can't wait to see what this OLED display is like. Oh, this XPS is sexy. They do make a sexy machine. I do wish it had that XPS logo here instead of the Dell. It's got that sort of pewter color. It is a nice finish on it. Now they have actually said that this is brand new, all inside. So everything inside is brand new except for the shell. It does look slightly different there. But anyway, one Thunderbolt 3, combination headphone jack, HDMI and USB Type A, and there's the barrel connector there. So you can actually charge through that Thunderbolt, but it'll be very slow. So yeah, you have to use the barrel connector there. And look at that, full size SD card slot, another USB 3. and then you have the battery indicator there. So it's nice and compact. It definitely feels more compact than the MacBook Pro. On the bottom we have that service flap. That just shows you your service number, and then you have the ventilation on the bottom, and you have the feet there. The feet is the same color as the body now. It's not black rubber. It does look nice and really does have a nice finish on it. But it even gets better because when you open it, and no, you cannot do the one hand job with this part. Look at that glorious carbon fiber there. Wow. Now I wish they did have the white carbon or the white glass finish. I really do wish they had that, because this is a fingerprint magnet. It looks beautiful when it's new. And you got the Infinity Edge display there. So yeah, let's have a look at this OLED. All right, so first impressions. Wow. Look at the pop of that OLED. I mean, we have both displays here, maximum brightness MacBook Pro on the left and the OLED XPS 15 7590. And to me, just looking at it, it looks like the XPS is actually brighter, even though that's supposed to be 400 nits and the MacBook Pro is supposed to be 500 nits now. A lot of these MacBook Pros, even though the claim spec is 500 nits, a lot of them come out 300, 350, 400. So there is a lot of variances in panels, and no two panels are the same. That's just how it is. But if I just look at these subjectively here, we're going to get the camera to tell you. I will measure it as well, but the camera doesn't lie either. You'll be able to see in the color spectrum or in the video editor which one's brighter. It looks like the OLED's brighter. There's definitely a difference in the pop. I mean, I'm just going to expose this a little bit more. Yeah, it definitely looks to me like the OLED. I mean, you can see the pop of the OLED. That's just OLED. That's a trait of it. They are saturated. Oh, it's very hard to tell. Maybe the Mac is a little bit brighter. But here's the thing with the Mac, right? When you shift it to full brightness, the color shifts. And what I mean by the color shifts is the colors get paler. So even though at max brightness it is very bright display, the color shifts. So if I just drop that down 2 notches, you can see the colors get darker. Like what happens is the yellows are not as pale as they are when I increase the brightness, and even the reds turn a little bit pink, because once you increase the brightness, you know, you lose a bit of that saturation in the color because the colors get paler. But you can see here with the OLED, there's none of that happening. This is max brightness and the colors still look deep and rich. So the one thing about the Mac I've always noticed, at maximum brightness, yeah, the colors just shift, as in they get paler. So yeah, that's one thing I have noticed. Now, with this XPS 15, there have been a few major upgrades. Now with this MacBook Pro, you only got a dropped-in processor, and that means you've got the 8-core i9 in it. Other than that, they've done nothing else with this, okay? Now there will be a new one coming soon, so maybe that's why they're not doing anything with it. But this thing has had some major upgrades. So even though it looks the same, we have 3 new displays, Full HD. We have the Ultra HD Touch IGZO panel, and that is new as well, 500 nits of brightness. We have this OLED display, which is supposedly 400 nits of brightness, but as you can see there, is it really? We'll find out. Now everyone's using the same OLED panel, so I don't know why some manufacturers are claiming different nits than others. Like this is 400, other manufacturers are claiming it's 500, other manufacturers are claiming 600, where they're all using the same Samsung OLED panel. So I don't know if Dell are more conservative, they're worried about burn-in and battery life, so maybe they don't put it as bright. I don't know what the reason for that is, but they are the same displays as far as I know. So which one do you reckon looks better or brighter? So as I was saying, this has major upgrades. Wi-Fi 6, okay? Do you get Wi-Fi 6? You get new CPU, new GPU, and 3 display options. So major upgrades to this, even though it looks the same. This one, they just plonked in a new processor. I'm not even counting the keyboard, whatever they've done with that to try and fix it, because that's not a new feature. So major upgrades with this, at least 4 different things: CPU, GPU, display, and Wi-Fi 6. There is a new one of this coming out. This one, we know with Dell's roadmap now, they're going to have a new XPS 15 at the start of next year. So yeah, can't wait for that. But so this should be the most perfected version of this XPS 15. But I will do comparison videos with this Mac. I'm going to do gaming review on this, video editing review, lots of reviews. So make sure you subscribe. This is my first quick look. I'll just have a quick look at thermals and then we'll crack on. I'll do the gaming review first. And yeah, I'm your one-stop shop. I'm going to show you how to upgrade it. My recommended RAM and SSD again are in the description. You want to stay tuned if you're interested in this XPS 15. No one's going to test it like I have. You know, this had a great display when it come out, but I think now, you know, these have new displays from these Samsung. They're pretty good. I will say that it is very saturated. It does have that OLED look to it, so some people might not like that. But yeah, the colors look, you know, other than one being more saturated than the other, the colors look, you know, that looks very pale compared to this. Yeah. Hope you can see that. We'll test in the camera which one's brighter. Let's have a quick look at thermals and then I'm going to start testing it. Now the Mac was always the best in terms of reflections, right? There you can see reflections. Whatever coding they had on the Macs was really good, but what I can tell you now is with this XPS 15, I don't know what they've done, but it's better than the Mac in terms of reflections. So yeah, that's interesting. That's something new. They must have put some really nice codings on this. Okay, so what we can see here is we have a package limit of 56 watts. Now the Mac can do about 60, but it settles in at about 56. So that's really interesting. So it's pretty much the same as the MacBook Pro when it, in terms of what it will settle in at 56 watts there. So let's run Cinebench. Let's have a look. And we'll see what clock it settles in at 56 watts. I predict 3.2 or 3, something like that. It's pretty much par for the course of all these sort of laptops here. Let's see, what do we got? All right, so we have a temperature. Whoa, we hit 100 straight away. Boom. Now, so any news about thermal upgrades? No. It's the same thermal package there. We're pushing 67 watts at the moment. We're pushing frequency is 3.2, 3.3, so it's already settled down to 3.2 already. Now I have actually done a Prime 95, and yes, it'll hit 100. Don't worry about that. It'll stay there, but it doesn't really throttle down that much so far. 3.1. Okay, this could do a bit of an undervolt, I could say. With an undervolt, I think it'll be really good. Now Dell don't undervolt theirs, as far as I know. They don't undervolt it. I'll check that. But we can see here it's settling down at 3 gigahertz. Now that's very interesting, right? Because this is the 6 core. Now the Mac can probably do 3 gigahertz and it's settled down there. You can see it settled down at the package of 55 watts, 56 watts. Now the Mac can do 60. Okay, so this is something Dell have set themselves in the BIOS, so they can increase this or decrease it. But yeah, 3 gigahertz. So the Mac with 8 cores can actually do, you know, the same sort of frequency in Cinebench, because that's all governed down there. It's not so much temperature. All right, it's 90 degrees, whatever. I mean, there's not that much room to wiggle anyway, but yeah, 56 watt they've decided. That's the sort of package it is. 56 watts, which equals 3.1 and a temperature of about 90. So yeah, that's the thermal package here. Have to try it undervolted, see how we go, what score we get. It's par for the course with these sort of, you know, 9th generation 9750Hs. That's about right. Some are higher, some are lower. Undervolted, I will say, in the defense here, although I don't think it will go much faster, I am still charging. Also, you got to remember 56 watts, that's what it's going to be. 3 gigahertz, 3.1. So that's where it's going to sit no matter what, unless they change the BIOS. Now, Cinebench, look at that score, 1254. Now that is undervolted, but yeah, it hasn't been in my last XPS 15, which I could get over 1300, but 1254, there ain't many laptops that do that sort of thing with R15. So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the, come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019.
Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Righto, tally-o there, champs. Now, if you guys are new around here, come on, sub up, join the wood train, hit that bell, ding-a-ling and dong, and hey, give me a like if you like this video. Now, what is the XPS 15 like with an eGPU? Well, let's find out. I'm not going to belabor the point. Let's just get straight into it. Let's have a look at this real-world project. And as you can see here, now it's like nearly as fast as the Mac. Now, I did have an RTX 2080 Ti. To be fair, the Mac only had like a Vega 64. So, yeah, within the margin of an error of the MacBook Pro when it comes to hardware encoding. And even with software encoding, we're getting a big boost as well. Anything that hits the GPU, playback, effects, anything like that, having an eGPU is going to be a much better experience for video editing, because in gaming, I could get up to 5 gigahertz when I had this eGPU connected. Now, it might not be a surprise to you. The i9 could reach 5 gigahertz in games that were low CPU usage anyway. It won't sustain 5 gigahertz, so it'll be no surprise that it can hit 5 gigahertz. Now, this is with the i9, mind you. But using the eGPU and giving the CPU all the power and taking the GPU heat strain off the heat spreader, it was amazing that this game was having clocks into the 4 gigahertz, even with Battlefield and the lower CPU usage games. Yeah, 5 gigahertz, no problems. And it's just looking at that, just clocks I'm not even used to when gaming with a laptop, like amazing. It really is a great idea to have an eGPU. But which eGPU is best for you? XPS 15 or any laptop. So here we have just assembled here a bunch of stuff here. Now it's connected to a Razer Blade Stealth because Razer sent out the Chroma eGPU. So I thought, hey, come on, if they sent me out this, I can display their laptop as well. But anyway, we have 2 eGPUs. Which would you get for your laptop? And what are some of the things you need to know about an eGPU? And there are some things you really need to know. First of all, with an eGPU, you don't want to be displaying on this display. You want to be connected to the eGPU with your Thunderbolt 3 cable and then outputting to a monitor for the best performance. With content creation and stuff like that, doesn't matter. Just have it hooked up like this and you're just going to get that extra power, no problem. But if you're actually gaming, you want this outputted to an external monitor. Big difference in gaming performance when you do so. It will still give you a boost if you actually just have it connected like this and not outputted to an external monitor, but it's going to be severely bottlenecked by the signal going from here to here by the sharing and then coming back into here to display on there. So that is the first thing you need to know. Which eGPU is best for you? And the reason I got this, the Encoding Node Pro, is because there's one special feature on that makes it good. Now, if I'm going to tell you what is the best eGPU, this is the best eGPU. This Razer Core Chroma, this is the newest one, the latest one, 700 watt power supply, also supplies 100 watts of power. So through this cable here, when you connect it to your laptop, 100 watts. So that's enough to do a MacBook Pro, any Ultrabook. So that is awesome compared to this Encoding Node Pro here, which only does 60 watts. But I think one of the most important things you need to know about an eGPU is how many Thunderbolt ports does your laptop have? An XPS 15 only has 1. Razer Blade only has 1. This laptop, even though it may look like it has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, it does not. Okay, only 1 Thunderbolt 3. This is the only Thunderbolt 3. And then on the other side here, that is not Thunderbolt 3, that is just USB-C. So you got to be careful. And this is where the limitations of the Chroma comes in. It is the best eGPU. It's fairly quiet. It's got the 700 watt power supply. As I said, it's got Ethernet built in. I'll show you in a sec. But if you want one of these things, okay, that's where the problem is. Because this is a Thunderbolt 3 dock. And look at all the connectivity you get with the Thunderbolt 3 dock. It is friggin' amazing. But if your Thunderbolt 3 is just connected to this, you haven't got another Thunderbolt 3. Now, of course, you could plug the eGPU into this, so you could connect this to your Thunderbolt 3 here, and then you could connect the eGPU here to that. But that's no good. You always want your Thunderbolt 3 device connected straight to it. And that's where this one comes in. Now, as I said before, they sent out an RTX 2080, but I used the 2080 Ti and the XPS 15 with those benchmarks. So it will vary. If you get a lower power graphics card, you won't get such a great performance. I will leave links to both these eGPUs in the description. And the reason I went for this one personally, and this is because I have an XPS 15, is this one because it has the Thunderbolt 3 out. So if we have a look here at the back of the Razer, what you can see is it has Ethernet as the power switch, whatever power in, some USB 3s and whatever I/O that the actual graphics card has. Compared to the Node Pro, which has this Thunderbolt 3 out. So you can plug your dock into that, okay? So this can plug into your Thunderbolt 3 port, and then you can plug your dock into that. Perfect if you've only got one Thunderbolt 3, which the XPS 15 has, the Razer Blade has. Even this Razer Blade Stealth only has one Thunderbolt 3. If you have two Thunderbolt 3s, I would not buy this at all. I'll definitely get this, 100%. Because this is better, it's quieter, 100 watts power, has Ethernet built in. They also look quite different, right? So if you want to keep that sort of space grey MacBook Pro thing going, that sort of aesthetic, this is obviously better for you. If you're a PC sort of guy, you got the RGB on this, it's black. If you've got a black laptop, awesome. And if you've got two Thunderbolt 3s, even better. But in saying that, you still get a lot of port selection here. You get the Ethernet, you get USBs. What more do you really need? If we have a look at a Thunderbolt 3 dock, which is this one, is great for the XPS 15, or it works with Razer, it works with pretty much every laptop, doesn't work with the Mac. You have to do a hack for that. But all you're getting here is a bunch of DisplayPort options, which really you're going to get on the graphics card anyway. You get Ethernet, which you have here on this Razer, and you get USBs, which you get USBs. So maybe you don't need the dock, but the one thing the dock has is Thunderbolt 3 out, so then you can daisy chain again. I really wish this Razer would have had Thunderbolt 3 out, and if it did, it would be the best Thunderbolt 3 eGPU, no doubt whatsoever. Now this one I said, 700 watt power supply, very quiet. This one, very noisy, but the good thing about this one is when I want to change a graphics card, I just lift the lid off and then boom, just change the graphics card easily. Now with the Razer Core Chroma, yeah, you can't lift that lid off. What you have to do is, if you've got a tight desk, you have to get around here and see the RGB in there. You have to pull out all this stuff. You have to unhook that, and then, yeah, you can see I've got no room, right? So you really need room to mess about and change your cards. So it's cool how this slides out, and there's the power supply there, 700 watt. It is really cool, but if you're on a desk with tight space, it is very hard to change the graphics cards. And I change graphics cards all the time, being able to take the lid off. Yeah. Now, if I had my time again, would I buy this? Probably would, because of that 100 watt power it does. I probably don't need the dock, as I said before, because pretty much get all the I/O, but I really do wish this had Thunderbolt 3 out. That'd be awesome. Yeah, Thunderbolt 3 is awesome. Put one on your laptop, makes an XPS 15 fly, makes a Razer Blade fly, makes them all fly. Catch you in the next one. Tally ho.